Alright, welcome back y'all. And for those who haven't been here before, my name is Ryan. This channel is all about guitar and guitar adjacent content. So today I have a pretty cool announcement to talk to you all about. And this is something I've been working on with a few friends of mine from a company called Parallax for a while now. This is going to be a new guitar cabinet impulse response pack called Primary Cabs by Parallax. So today I want to demo to you why these impulse responses are great and just how I use them, because you're going to be able to use them pretty easily as well just by dropping them into your mix. And I'm going to let you guys hear it in the context of a full demo mix with a new metal song that I wrote recently. But before we dive in, I want to go over the equipment that I'm using, just so like if you do want to recreate these tones exactly, you can obviously grab the different plugins that I'm using and the different gear that I'm using. So for the guitar, I'm using my GOC Guitars Illumina Plus, and for the pickups, these are my new custom set from Aurora Tone Pickups. These are his ultraviolets, and this guitar is going straight into my Audient ID14 interface. Nothing in between there, no direct box or anything like that. Now, as far as in Logic, I'm using two different plugins that you're going to hear today. I'm using the STL Tones Amp Hub, using the dual rectifier amp inside of that, and then I'm also going to be using the good old Archetype Gojira X, because that's pretty much all I use most of the time. And I'm going to let you hear them A and B back and forth with their built-in cabinets and then with this new impulse response pack. But before we get into all of that nitty-gritty, let's go ahead and dive in and listen to this all in the context of a full demo mix. Alright, so what you heard there with the left and right guitars, that was the STL Tones Amp Hub, and that was using my own custom blend of these IRs, which will be included in this pack if you decide to purchase it. So if we look up here on the screen, we have the Heartless Audio Custom Mixed, and that's this first one here. That's actually the exact IR combination and EQ settings that I used for that demo song that you just heard. So with that exact impulse response right there, you'll be able to drop that into your impulse response loader of your choice. I'm going to show you a really cool one that I use in a second here, but you can drop it into any of the free ones and use the STL Tones Amp Hub dual rectifier amp and be able to get pretty much that same exact sound, give or take a little bit of a difference because of the pickups in this guitar. Obviously pickups do make a difference as far as like output goes, and then the EQ curve that they add to it as well, but that's always something that can be compensated for with EQ on the back end as well. So when you open up the impulse response pack from Parallax, it's going to look like this. You'll get my three custom blends right here, which I have the custom that we already talked about. We also have the Lo-Fi mixed and Lo-Fi 2 mixed. Now the Lo-Fi cabs are going to give you that you know, that radio edit and that kind of trashy sound, like when you want to have a really cool like intro to a song, which you heard at the beginning of this one. I did add a little bit more EQ on top of that just to give it that telephone effect, where I just boosted the mid-range and did a high and low cut as well, just to really emphasize that. But if we click on the main folder here, you'll notice that you have a series of these mixed. So you have the EDH mixed, the FEN mixed. You can kind of guess what those are, EDH and FEN and MAR. And then MES, ORN, and VX. So these are all the pre-mixed, and you don't really need to do much EQ with these ones. But if we go into combos here, you'll notice there's a ton more. So these ones are also pre-mixed with combinations of these different cabs. So if you don't have an IR loader that lets you load more than one cabinet at a time, these are really useful because you'll be able to just drop one of these in instead, and it's already two cabs ready to go. So experiment, play around with those, see what they sound like, and see which combination fits your playing and the amp that you're using best for the song that you're writing. So pretty cool. These are super easy to use. Again, if you have any questions about how to use an impulse response loader, let me know. I'm going to show you one called Cabinetron in just a second here, which is my favorite because I can load a ton of different impulses into it and be good to go. Let's go ahead and jump back over into Logic here, and let's go over the main tone that you heard in that song just now. So this is the STL Amp Hub. This one is their Cali Dual Rec 2 channel. It's a pretty classic amp, right? So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go ahead and turn off Cabinetron. I want you guys to hear what STL Tones built-in cabinet and everything sounds like. So I'm going to turn on their cabinets here. All right, so this is what the stock STL Tones Amp Hub dual rect with their speaker impulses that I've adjusted slightly as well sounds like. All right, so just so you all know as well, I don't have much else going on inside of the plugin. So inside of the stomp box section, these two are off. I was just testing out the different overdrives, but I do have their Tyrant Ignite amps boost, which honestly is a fantastic boost pedal. I've really gotten addicted to the sounds that I can get out of that one. I do have the noise gate cranked up a little bit, and then if we go over to the effects, I've got nothing here. In the amplifier section, I'm using the channel 2, and I've got the switch flipped to bold, and then I've got it switched to modern as well. And then pretty basic settings here. Presence is cranked a little bit. The master is turned down to bring down the saturation of the power tube section. Bass is at middle, left alone. Mids are at mid. These are pretty mid-heavy to begin with, and treble is left alone as well. I really let the impulse responses do the heavy lifting as far as changing that tone there. So again, let me let you hear that. And then let's go ahead and turn off the cabinet section here, and we'll bring up Cabinetron. Now, cool thing about Cabinetron, you have your little directory over here, and this allows you to see where all of your impulse responses are. And then over here, these are all of the different impulse responses that I dropped in. So I actually dropped in all of those mixed impulse responses that we talked about when I showed you the impulse response pack itself. So you see the only two I have on right now are the VX mixed and the FEN mixed. Now, I don't have anything else going on besides a high pass and low pass filter on this cabinet, and then a high pass on this one as well. And because in a mix, you kind of want to get rid of some of those lows, just depending on the mix that you're working on. I used my bass guitar to have a lot of the extra lows, because even with these high pass filters, there's quite a bit of lows still on there, which is pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and take a listen to how that sounds now. So you can see those cabinet impulse responses immediately tightened up that tone, gave it more clarity, but still kept that bottom end. And if I were to pull down those high pass filters, you would actually hear the bottom end even more. So it's cutting out a lot of bottom end there, which is what I needed for this exact mix. So that was the STL Tones Amp Hub. Now let's go over to something that most people already have, which is Archetype Gojira. I'm gonna turn off Cabinetron again. I'm gonna turn on the inbuilt cabinet section within Archetype Gojira, because this is something that I use very often. So if I'm just loading something up really quick to jam, this is usually the preset that I'll load up for this exact guitar with these exact pickups. So. As always, Gojira X crushes, right? Like instant tone out of the box. Not much going on inside of this one either. Very simple boost settings here. The cabinet section, I pretty much left alone. I did move the mics around a little bit to get a little bit more hair out of it. And then in the EQ section, nothing at all going on. No other effects on here as well. So if we go back in, let's go ahead and turn off the cabinet section, and we'll turn Cabinetron back on. And you'll notice I'm using the exact same two cabs as I was with the Mesa dual rack on the STL Tones Amp Hub plugin. Now on this, I do think this is an even bigger improvement, to be honest with you, even though I already love Gojira X in the inbuilt cab section. So let's go ahead and take a listen. All right, sorry, I got a little bit ahead of myself there because I just love jamming through this, honestly. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's true. So that's just how easy it is to get a really sick guitar tone with just simply changing your guitar cabs. So we all know and love Archetype Gojira, and all of Neural DSP's plugins, honestly, are fantastic. The big thing that can differentiate your guitar tone, though, is changing your impulse response that you're using. So if you're using the same impulse response that everybody else is using, sure, you're going to get great tones out of it still. You might not always get something as unique as you want, though, and you might not always find that it fits in the mix the way that you want it to without a ton of extra mixing and editing on the back end. So as far as mixing and editing for this demo song, all I did was add on an EQ for the master bus to raise the low end and lower some of the high end, because I noticed that my cymbals for the drums were a little bit too harsh there. But everything else I just left stock for the guitars. I didn't compress them, I didn't do anything else, because these impulse responses, the pre-mixed versions of them, fit in perfectly. So again, in that pack you're going to notice that the FEN mixed and the VX mixed, those ones sound great on their own, but if you use that custom blend that we added in there for Heartless Audio, you're going to notice that that'll drop in and have an insane tone right away. What's cool is you don't have to use these with just plugins. You can import these into things like the Quad Cortex or the Kemper or the Fractal Audio. Anything that can import an impulse response, you should be able to use these with. So I know this video was kind of short, but I mean, these impulse responses kind of speak for themselves. You can get them over on my website right now. They're 15 bucks and it gets you this whole pack and the custom blends that I made with my EQ settings and everything as well that are pre-baked into that. And so you don't really have to do anything with it. Just drop it into Archetype Gojira, drop it into your favorite impulse response loader. Cabinetron that I'm using up here is a great one, but STL Tones Ignite, I believe, has a free one, and there's other free ones out there as well. I'll link a couple of them in the description. The link to this impulse response pack will be down there as well. If you guys have any questions, or if you'd like to hear these impulse responses in a different context of a different style of music or genre or what have you, let me know in the comments, because I'd be more than happy to actually make another video on these. I'll probably make some more anyways, because I'm always writing, and these are literally part of my Logic Pro writing template at this point. So I hope you guys like these impulse responses, and if you like content like this, please make sure to subscribe. I'm going to be posting a lot more in-depth tutorials on how to use these impulse responses, and maybe even some mixed tutorials and things of that sort as well. Thanks for watching if you made it this far, and peace out, y'all.